Welcome to this week's Speechbox. I'm Jeremy Hirsch, now with 100% more gluten. That's how you know it's good. Last week we talked about The Flash. Week before we talked about Gotham. This week, wanted to talk about Arrow. That's kind of the show that kind of sprang forth all these little comic book shows that we've got to see and enjoy. Captain Amell, Stephen Amell, is the titular character. Arrow, Oliver Queen, has done a great job with the role. He's had to play a lot of different versions of the character, so to speak, present day, and then what he was like before the island and things of that nature. And that's been very enjoyable to watch, just kind of the different dimensions to that character that he's built. We're in season 3 of that show. The main villain, or the big bad of the season, has been revealed to be, and remember, spoilers, Ra's al Ghul, which they have casted as Matt Nable. He was in the Riddick movie. We've seen a grand total of him for about, I would say maybe 5 minutes in a previous episode. One sticking point, I guess, so far, and it's really, really hard to judge because it's, again, very soon in the season and we haven't had a lot of Matt to be able to judge. Ra's al Ghul really needs to be a character that's very commanding. He has a certain presence about him, whether it's been in the animated series or whether it's been a live-action representation by the fantastic Liam Neeson, who I think it's been said if he had time he would have liked to have done Arrow. I don't know if that was just for fluffery or what have you, but I'm glad that that didn't happen, because you definitely want to have your own identity as a show and not always be linked to Christopher Nolan's Batman universe, which a lot of times Arrow is certainly referenced to, but I definitely need to see more of what they want to do with that character. For the little bit that we got of him, it wasn't... He didn't command the screen. There wasn't really a lot of presence about him, especially when you'd heard about him, at least as far as the show is concerned, since season 2. You know, that this was a very, very dangerous man in control of the League of Assassins. You know, you want to see a little bit more. You want somebody that just grabs your attention and looks like an immediate threat versus just kind of like a Trevor Slattery Iron Man Mandarin character. But obviously plenty of ways to go, and season's still very, very young. Season 3 it kind of reminds me of season 1 in a way. Season 2 just seemed very, very big, but obviously there was a lot of build up to that, so in retrospect it's easier to say that season 2 had more going on for it. We also had a little bit more in season 2 of not necessarily supernatural elements, but more superhero elements in terms of like Mirakuru villains, and we had a lot going on with Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, and the Brother Blood characters, so there was definitely a lot going on with that. Season 3 of Arrow, we're kind of investigating who may have murdered Sarah Lance, the Canary, and then also sort of seeing different dynamics now that Malcolm Merlyn is back, played tremendously by John Barrowman. It's always a pleasure anytime he's on anything. Captain Jack Harkness, gotta love the guy. A lot of character development with Willa Holland's Thea. She's not so much just sort of like a vapid background teenage character anymore. She's building into a stronger character. We're seeing Katie Cassidy's Laurel actually now training to become the Black Canary, and sort of her metamorphosis into that. People seemed disappointed, you know, that, oh, she's gonna start fighting and everything with a little bit of boxing training. They kind of hammered it in season 1 though, that you know, she's a police officer's daughter. She's had self-defense classes and she's had previous training in regards to some fighting skills. You know, I know they glanced over in season 2 Roy Harper's training with just kind of going from slap in the water to, you know, badass with a bow and arrow, but there's at least a precedence in terms of that she's had training before in terms of being able to handle herself. So that's been kind of cool. I'm curious what the build-up is. We are very, you know, ingrained to these characters. They do a good job throughout seasons, giving us little character piece episodes. It's kind of interesting now, obviously, David Ramsey's John Diggle character now being a father, that element's being incorporated. We just literally last week had an episode where we got some background on Emily Bett Ricard's Felicity Smoke character and what she was like in college, and she's obviously the tech piece that holds the team together, and obviously her growing romance with Brandon Routh's Ray Palmer. I never really was a big Brandon Routh fan. I thought he was serviceable in Superman Returns, but I'm really liking what he brings to the show as Ray Palmer, and hopefully we get a little bit the taste of him in action as the superhero, the Atom. One thing I can kind of say, not necessarily like exclusively or anything to the sort, this is maybe general knowledge by this point, but one thing I really thought stood out in season 2 was Manu Bennett's portrayal of Slade Wilson, and maybe his absence is kind of felt as we're in the early parts of season 3. And one of the main reasons we haven't seen him is I actually got to talk to Manu a little bit. He was at the Richmond Comic Con a few months ago, and he doesn't have a contract for the season, so he's going about doing his own thing. He had been previously been approached by the showrunners, that they may want to use him in the future, and I had asked him, Slade Wilson does have a little bit of history in terms of the Suicide Squad, and that is where he thought that they were going to go. So hopefully the writers put together a Suicide Squad episode again for this season, or maybe a small arc. Those are always extremely enjoyable for the show, and anytime we get to see Michael Rose, Deadshot, is always welcome. So I'm very excited to see where the season goes. Like I said, huge fan of Stephen Amell and everything he's been able to do for Arrow, and just that show being able to sort of springboard all these other superhero shows, and just the amount of dedication that man puts into everything. Watch on YouTube some of his workout videos and stuff. If there's anybody I would say that legitimately could be a superhero in real life to mirror their show counterpart, Stephen Amell is definitely where it's at. So I'm very excited to see where season 3 goes from here. Hopefully little Black Canary, Green Arrow team-ups, more in terms of character development with Roy Harper's Arsenal character, and sort of his personal journey. Last episode, he believes that he may have murdered Sarah Lance, but I think that's kind of just in the wash, so to speak, and he's just dealing with maybe some of the effects of what he did when he was under Mirakuru from season 2, and again, more Laurel's training, seeing where that goes. So it should be an exciting season. Anytime you have the League of Assassins, the stakes are raised, and see more of the little Easter eggs and things that those showrunners usually throw in there. So very excited for Arrow season 3. Closing out the show this week, our Broment of the week actually goes to Nice Peter and Epic Lloyd of Epic Rap Battles of History. They just started their 4th season. I will put the link in the description for Ghostbusters vs. Mythbusters. And I will say this, anytime you're asked, do you kill it on the mic, Ray, you say yes. Thank you, and always be a fan.